Here's a question. Do we want to start with an introduction, greetings, welcome to Crew Expendable, I am your host so-and-so, or do we want to just sort of do the conversation in progress thing? Or do you want to do a combination where it's a combination, it starts off conversation in progress and media res, as they say?
That is a great question, and in retrospect, that is probably a question we should have asked before we actually started recording.
Yeah, but we're here now. We're gonna figure it out.
We're already here, baby.
On air. So if we did have an intro, what would it be?
That's a good question. Well, I suppose we could just do the standard default, hello, listeners, and welcome to Crew Expendable with Neal and Kenny. I'm Kenny, and he's Neal.
I'm Neal, and he's Kenny.
How's that sound?
I think it sounds pretty good. We can work this out. We can workshop this too, on future episodes. Maybe we try something different every time, right?
Hey, why not?
It's our
show. Who's going
to
to stop us?
Nobody's going to stop us. I guess if we had sponsors, they might try to, but we don't have any yet.
Nerds to them. I'm not worried about it.
This podcast sponsored by Wayland-Yutani Worlds.
Right. I was going to say right now I would be adding in what their tagline is, but I forgot.
All right. Well, we'll get a script together for next time.
Perfect. That'll work.
So, Kenny, what are we here to talk about? What is this brand new podcast people are listening to for the first time all about?
Well, this podcast, it's all about the Alien franchise, as in specifically the Alien franchise with the Xenomorph and Wayland-Yutani and famously Ellen Ripley and the Nostromo.
Okay.
The plan is basically to cover everything, I guess. I was trying to hedge my bet there to see if there was anything we were going to skip, but I'm pretty sure we're going to try to basically hit everything.
I think so.
Yeah, all the movies, all the comics, all the games, all the books.
God.
We're probably even going to talk about the toys at some point or another.
I'm going to have to read books for this thing. I didn't sign up for all that.
Well, I guess you're going back to school then.
Famously, I don't like to read books. That's not true. I like to read a book.
I like to read books too. Although, to be fair, all the books so far that I've listened for the show, or that I've read for the show, I've listened to because I got the audiobook rather than a physical copy. What
sure. Studies have shown that listening to an audiobook, the comprehension of the book is the same as if you read it. So there's really no difference. So everyone out there, go to audible.com/crewexpendable for your free trial.
Yeah, type in code Crew Expendable for 10% off your first book.
Yeah, I don't think it works yet, but we'll get there. We're going to get their attention. We're going to throw our hat in with Daddy Bezos.
That's right.
I mean, this is a film franchise about a pretty evil corporation, so it kind of just makes sense.
Now, that is a connection I never would have been able to make on myself, or make by myself. Good call on that one.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's thematically poignant. Yeah, man, this is a big franchise. I don't even know how many. I mean, what do we got? 6 movies? Because I definitely lump Prometheus and Alien Covenant in with the standard franchise. Then we got the 2 Alien versus Predator movies. We might as well throw the Predator movies in there too. There's 4 of those.
Yeah, I mean, since we're already talking about the AVPs anyway, yeah. I mean, the Predators are right there. Plus, as you already know, according to that little Easter egg in Predator 2, it gives us a canonical excuse, if nothing else.
Oh yeah. Plus, there's I don't know how many Dark Horse miniseries. When Dark Horse is published in the Alien comics and an ongoing series, there's the new Marvel ongoing series. There's an FX television series coming soon.
Yep. They just recently announced a movie
for Hulu, right?
Yeah, it's going to be on Hulu. It's going to be made by, I believe his name is Fede Alvarez. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. The guy that did Don't Breathe, I believe that was him.
Oh, did he
And
do the Evil Dead remake, or was that the other guy?
I that may have been him. I'm honestly not 100% sure.
Yeah, it is.
But
It totally is. That movie's
it
sick
is.
too.
Dude, the Evil Dead remake is great. I love that movie. I could talk about it all day.
Yeah,
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
those will be our Patreon bonus episodes, all about the
right.
Evil Dead
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, the Patreon bonus episodes of Crew Expendable are when we just talk about random, arbitrary, non-alien movies. That's correct.
Yeah.
If you want to see us turn into just a regular movie podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, that gives an excuse to talk about like Pitch Black, right?
Pitch Black, yes.
Deep Rising. I feel like that's an alien knockoff. That's an Aliens knockoff, certainly.
It certainly is. We could talk about Underwater, which is pretty much an alien ripoff.
Okay.
The one with Kristen Stewart, yeah.
Yeah. I have not seen that. I didn't even know that there were monsters in that.
It's a monster movie. It's definitely it's the first Alien, but if it was underwater instead of in space, it's pretty much what it is.
I might watch that tonight.
There's a big twist ending that made a lot of people go, but honestly, I kind of liked it. I actually think that's a pretty good movie. I think it's better than people say it is, personally.
Was the twist that the humans were the aliens all along?
It was not. No.
Okay.
Nice try, though. Good guess.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll jump into some of those things after we've covered the entire Alien expanded universe, which will never happen because they keep making the stuff. I think we could probably podcast every day for a year and not be through all of it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you or not, but I recently picked up, because like last year, whenever Disney got the rights to the Alien franchise, they started reprinting all of the old Dark Horse comics.
Oh, man. Good timing.
Oh, yeah. Dude, tell me about it. Like all 30 years worth or however many of them there are.
Holy
they're
moly.
printing them in these big, huge, massive, like 1,000-page long hardcover books. And I got one of them not too long ago, and like if you drop this thing on your foot, it'll probably break a toe. It is extremely heavy.
Then you won't be able to outrun the Xenomorph. Careful, dude.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'll definitely get eaten for sure.
Yeah.
But like my point is that this has, like I said, it's over 1,000 pages worth of comics, and like, there's something like, I think, don't quote me on this, even though you can quote me on this because it's getting recorded. I think there's something like 30 or 40 storylines in that book.
Wow.
So we could spend like years just covering the comics if we did one episode per like storyline,
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. And that's not, like I said, that's not even counting all of the books of which there have the novels, of which there have been 3 different distinct series of novels.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of games I can think of, I can only think of 4 or 5 off the top of my head, but admittedly, I haven't played most of the games because most of them, I believe, are PC only.
I'm going to take a shot at this. I know that there's an Alien 3 game, and then there's a different Alien 3 game. The Genesis version and the Game Boy version are different games. There's the Aliens versus Predator game on Super Nintendo, and I think that was an arcade game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say Isolation now because it's probably the best one. But then there's the old Alien versus Predator 1 and 2, the Alien versus Predator RTS games, the Colonial Marines game, Fireteam Elite. There's a shit ton of games.
There's a shit ton of games, dude.
Jesus.
And only, I think Isolation and Fireteam Elite are only like the most recent like big ones. And Isolation came out, I think 8 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it came out in 2014.
PlayStation 3 era. That's what I had it on first before I got the Xbox One.
Wild stuff.
Oh, then there's the Android Alien Isolation sequel called Alien Blackout. That's like a Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff, apparently.
I was vaguely familiar with it existing, but I can tell you right now, I've definitely never played it.
I played one level of it the other day. It's pretty cool and pretty effective for a mobile game, especially for an Alien mobile game.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Jesus, this is a lot of stuff to get through. How are we going to organize all of this?
Well, I was thinking, what if we start off by covering the major movies? Not necessarily all in a row, like, one episode after another.
Right. We don't really want to, like, those are the most well-known things in the property. We don't want to, like, blow our load, too early.
We don't want to front load the show. Exactly.
Yeah. We need to.
So what I was thinking.
Sorry, we need to tantra this thing.
That's right. What I was thinking was we can start off with the movie and do like one of the 6 movies every, I don't know, 3-4 weeks maybe. Like do one of them a month.
Okay.
And then the other intervening weeks between each of the 6 major movies, we talk about, ancillary or connected or sequel stuff that's tied into that specific entry in the movie frame.
I like that. So, like,
you know what I mean? Did I explain that well?
Yeah. So, like, we hit Alien, and then maybe we do an episode on Out of the Shadows, Alien Out of the Shadows, which is set between Alien and Aliens, and then a few other things. We hit Aliens, then maybe we tackle the Aliens Earth War comics that were first written as a sequel to that, and then had character names change later. We get to,
and then maybe we could follow that up. I mean, we could just go straight to Aliens after that, or we could, for instance, maybe hit Isolation next after that. Possibly.
Oh yeah, that is set before Aliens, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's right.
I believe, if I recall, it actually takes place closer to Alien than it does Aliens, I believe.
Man, those worker Joes are fucking creepy, dude. They're scary. The scariest part of that game is the stupid androids.
Speaking of Aliens specifically, you know that old, well, I guess it's not really a tall tale because the movie's only like 35 years old or something like that. But anyway, you know that like story that they used to tell, that myth about the Aliens movie, where how James Cameron pitched it by walking into the room and then writing alien on a whiteboard. And then he turned to the executives and then wrote a $sign after it. And they all like cheered or whatever. You know that like old tall tale they tell about the movie?
Sure. Yeah.
I was reading this thing the other day and they asked James Cameron about it. And he's like, yes, that is true. That is literally what happened. And that is how I pitched the movie.
No fuck.
Yes.
What an asshole.
So that's actually true. He wrote alien $sign and they were like, sold.
And someone like seriously considered like maybe that should be the official marketing too, right?
Yeah, maybe that should be the title of the movie.
Jesus Christ. Well, again, with that fucking evil corporation, Weyland-Yutani stepping in.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, dude. They're all over it.
Anyway. Their military weapons development program looked at the Xenomorph and just saw $signs.
I mean, as you go through the franchise, you will discover that no matter how many Xenomorphs they look at, they always see those $signs.
Yeah.
No matter how many times they try, that is all that ever happens. Is they're like, we need to bring that in for testing and make money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Man never learns, and the engineer before them also never learned.
That's right. I mean, see, look what happened when they did their thing, and now look what happened.
The human beings just trying to do the same thing. We'll get into that when we tackle Prometheus, which I think we should tackle first. I don't think we should go in release order for these. I think we need to go in a chronological order of the timeline in an attempt to sort of make sense of all of it.
Yeah, like, set down the major like tentpole parts that like the framing that everything else is going to be hanged on,
Sure, yeah. I think that's a good idea.
I think I like that idea. I'm okay with starting with Prometheus first. Of course, to be fair, as a little aside, if we want to go in chronological order, technically we'd be starting with AVP, but that's beside the point.
Well, I think it's been pretty much settled that the AVP movies are not canon to either the Alien or Predator universes. It's like an alternate universe.
Also believe that. That's probably a discussion for another day, but like that is a view I personally subscribe to as well.
Plus we're getting messy there because if we're using those as a bridge, that means we got to start with Predator and then go to Predator 2 before we even get to see any fucking Xenomorphs. And I love Predator, but I don't want to start there.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't start our Alien podcast with like 2 months of Predator content.
No.
Just a thought.
I mean, we could. It is our show.
We could. What are they going to do? Stop us? Come on.
I guess they just wouldn't listen.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. No, we'll get to Predator and AVP down the line after we've tackled the 6 Alien films.
Which actually, speaking of tackling the Alien films, that's actually something else that we should probably hash out right now.
Sure.
We've got Prometheus. We've got Alien Covenant. We already know those. We can already put those up on the shelf.
Right.
But then we get to the classic 4. We got Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, or Alien Cubed, if you're feeling nasty, and Alien Resurrection.
Sure.
All 4 of those movies have more than just a theatrical cut edit of them. Which version of them do you want to do?
I think that we probably need to start with the theatrical versions. I think we could tackle. I think we could tackle. Alien Director's Cut, Aliens Special Edition, the now preferred amongst many people Alien 3 Assembly Cut.
Assembly Cut.
Yeah, we can tackle those further on down the line. I think that because I think the versions of these movies that like your average person has grown up with watching are just the theatrical cuts, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Those are the ones that you can consider every single thing that happens in them as canon.
Fair enough.
It'd be definitely interesting to go through the series and then take a look back at those alternate versions of the classics and see what that adds to anything, see if it like the alternate versions add anything, change anything about the way we see the rest of the universe.
I do know already off the top of my head that the Aliens special cut or special edition or whatever it's called and the assembly cut of Alien 3 have enough new content or enough added content to them that it does kind of like change how the movie works.
Sure.
But I think the director's cut of Alien, like I don't think there's enough difference between them to really like warrant like a real in-depth discussion. I think it's like they added a couple of scenes that amounts to like a minute and a half of content or something like that. So
yeah, but it will just be a good excuse to go back and watch Alien again,
Which actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because I'll actually save this conversation or I'll save this comment momentarily because I was about to get into, when I first watched the Alien movies and all these other things. But, before I get into that, let me ask you, what's your, the first time you watched Alien or like your history with the franchise in general or that kind of thing?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, my history with the franchise started when I was like 6 or 7 because I had an older brother named Ben. Shout out to my brother.
What up, Ben?
He was like 9 or 10 at the time. He's about 3 years older than me. And something happened where suddenly he just became super fascinated by the franchise. And again, I was 6 or 7. I was not like aware of, the fact that there were more movies than just Ninja Turtles and Top Gun. So, I think Alien is probably not on like the consciousness of most young children.
It's not really on the radar of a 6-year-old. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, but my brother being older, he must have heard about it from friends at school, somebody who saw it or something, and he just became so deeply interested in the series. He talked my parents into renting the movies, and like I think he started right at the beginning at Alien, and I remember sitting down with the rest of the family to try to watch this movie. And I made it pretty far, right? Like I made it through the opening. I made it through finding the derelict ship. I've made it through Kane getting attacked by the egg, getting taken back on board, the face hugger falling off and like kind of fucking around in the med bay, I made it just barely through the dinner scene and I was done.
Like that classic iconic scene, like arguably the most memorable moment of the first movie.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly, I think one of the most memorable moments of all film, like cinema in general. It was like simultaneously just like so fascinating. I had never seen anything like it, of course, and I couldn't look away. But then I definitely was too scared to watch the rest of the movie. And I think I wanted to like act like I was cool and tough in front of my family. I'm sure they knew that I was scared and like it was totally fine, So then when my brother got down to watching Aliens, the sequel, I'm sure the following weekend, whenever he could talk our parents to taking him back to the video store. I think it was a Red Rabbit video. I didn't watch any of it. I didn't watch any of Aliens. I was too freaked out. I caught maybe glimpses here and there, but I really was like avoiding it. I was too scared to watch it. But I heard the entire thing, like the volume on the TV just up loud enough that I could hear the entire movie from my room. And any like brief silence when I'm pausing my Sega Genesis or whatever I was doing to keep me safe, I definitely heard, guns going off and Hudson screaming "Game over, man" and all of that stuff. So like that definitely piqued my curiosity as well. Then he came to Alien 3 and like again I was just like checked out. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm too young and I'm too scared. But I did somehow catch the ending of that movie, like the very ending of the movie.
Like the final scene of the movie. I got you.
Yes. Like, I'll just spoiler alert for Alien 3, Ripley falling into the incinerator as the queen is bursting out of her.
That certainly is what happens, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only part of Alien 3 that I saw. And it just, all it did was remind me, boom, just like that dinner scene a few weeks ago in Alien 1, like, holy shit. But, it had an ending to it, right? Like, it was done. Like, I felt a little bit safer after watching the ending to Alien 3 because I got to see the thing not survive.
Yeah,
right?
You knew that it could never come back to haunt you again. Or so you thought.
Yeah, and then Alien Covenant came out. But my brother was such a big fan. He started like buying the action figures. I know we'll talk about those. He had like the Rhino Alien and the Snake Alien and all of those like bizarre action figures for the movie Aliens that they geared towards children. And he also was into comics at the time, so he was buying Aliens versus Predator comics and alien novels and anything he could get his hands on. And he was cool about it. Like we would set up our G.I. Joes and like have them fight the aliens, and the Predators. He was also into the Predator franchise, of course, by extension. Those two have always been linked together.
They certainly have.
Yeah. And he would like tell me about the comics and tell me about the books and show me stuff. Like he was cool about sharing the stuff with me. He was really interested in it. And like somehow like that made me start to get really fascinated in it in like on my own, just like, the older brother sort of handing something down to you, bonding with him, etc. So that's when my interest in the franchise really started to grow, was sort of through some of those ancillary, comic books and toys, really. But I was like a nosy kid, right? So like when he would be away at his friends' houses or something, I would sneak into his room and flip through his comic books and take his movies and go watch them and put them back. And it's like I was a little older at this point, maybe I was 9 or 10. I had kind of aged into the franchise a little better. And that's when I started watching them all. And they just like really took hold of me. Like by the time I finally sat down and watched Alien all the way through, I was sold on the series. Aliens, of course, as a kid was just so action packed and the characters were so cool to me when I was young. Like I just loved those movies, and the franchise became a part of my life in the same way that it had been my brother's.
And did all this happen before Resurrection came out? Had you seen Resurrection yet by that point?
I think my brother had gone to see Resurrection in theaters. Eventually, when he bought the VHS tape, it was probably the first time I watched it. And I was young enough to like it. Like, I don't want to sit here and say I hate it. I honestly haven't watched it in quite a few years. But I definitely remember putting that one on several times as a kid. I think it had, I don't know, maybe just because Ron Perlman was in it, I liked it. I'm not really sure, It's a weird movie for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. But I adopted the whole franchise when the big DVD set, the whole Alien quadrilogy came out, and that's when they were giving you the alternate versions of the movies for the first time, plus a whole nother bonus disc. That went on my Christmas list, and I got it, and I still have it. And that's actually the only hard copy versions of the movies I still have.
Nice.
Are the Alien quadrilogy DVD set. Yeah, but I saw like Prometheus. I bought into the Prometheus hype. I saw that in theaters right away. I saw Covenant opening weekend. Like I saw the Alien versus Predator movies, both of them in theaters right away. Like I'm a kind of an Aliens mark. Like even when it's bad, I'll give you my money for it.
Fair enough. Yeah, Aliens are great, man.
Yeah.
They rule. So going back to what you were saying at the beginning of it, it sounds to
Sure.
me like, everyone, I don't know how much time you spend watching horror movies, but I watch a lot of horror.
Okay.
And
I'm a moderate horror fan. I mean, I watch quite a few. I'm big on the slashers, and maybe that's part of why the Alien appeals to me, or maybe that's part of why slasher movies appeal to me. I don't know.
yeah. But it sounds to me, because like everyone that spends a good chunk of time watching horror movies, they always have that one movie that I guess you could, for lack of a more creative term, call the Saw too early movie. The movie when you
Oh,
were like
definitely.
6 or whatever, where you
Sure.
walked in while it was playing or were peeking around behind the couch, and then you saw it and you were too young to see it, and you like remembered it forever.
Oh yeah, and I bet for somebody out there, their Saw Too Early movie is Saw 2.
I see what you did there. But it sounds to me like the first Alien was your Saw too early movie.
It imprinted on me in a way that, like, I love the franchise. I love the Alien. I love monsters in general. I can watch horror movies and be fine. I love a slasher, etc. I like big monsters, little monsters. I love a monster movie. The Xenomorph and I guess the face hugger, it's the only movie monster like I am legit still afraid of, like seeing my nightmares kind of thing on occasion.
It's not making a sound, but I'm nodding thoughtfully right now.
What about you? Do you have a movie like that?
I do. It's not an Alien movie though. My Saw too early movie is actually, how should I put it? I'm trying to think of some flowery way to phrase it or imply it, but I
Uh-huh.
can't think of anything clever while I'm on the mic right now. My Saw too early movie was Jaws.
Oh shit, Jaws. Yeah, that's a big one for a lot of
It's
people.
I remember I was over my parents, I was like 8. I was 8. So it was
Sure.
1995. I was born in 87. So I was 8 years old and my parents had something to do, and I was over at my grandmother's house. She was watching me for the night, and she
Right.
decided, "Hey, well, let's go out and you can rent a movie and we can, hang out, watch the movie and goof off and stuff for the evening." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And so we went over to, I don't remember where the place was, but I remember the movie place we went to. It wasn't a freestanding solo building. It was like you
Okay.
went into this one shop or this one business, and then
Yeah.
the people that ran that business had like a wing on their otherwise unrelated shop where also separately they rented
Oh
out
yeah.
movies.
Yeah, there
And
used to be a lot of that.
oh yeah, I can't remember where it was or what it was called or anything like that. But yeah, it wasn't a movie rental place. It was just like a
Sure.
place. It was like, you go into like a convenience store or whatever and they'd have movies
Yeah.
for sale like that.
Yeah, we had a
And
grocery store that had movie rentals in it. Yeah,
yeah, it
I
was
think
something like that.
far longer than movie rental places were a viable
Yeah.
business.
Yep. And this might have been like a drugstore or a convenience store or something like that.
Sure.
And she told me I could pick out a movie, but since I was 8 at the time, it couldn't be anything rated higher than PG. Now, for all you
Okay.
trivia heads out there, if you
Something's
go
not
back,
adding up here.
yeah, if you think about like the poster for Jaws and look at
Yeah.
that rating down in the corner, it's a PG movie.
Oh, that's right.
It is
That's
because
like how The
PG-13.
Graduate is rated
Yeah, it came out in
rated
75.
PG.
PG-13 didn't exist until like 82 or 83 when one of
Yeah.
the Indiana Jones movies came out. I don't remember which one. So,
Yeah. Temple of
yeah,
Doom.
I think it was Temple of Doom. It was like 82, 83, something like that. But anyway, it was rated PG. So I was like, hey, I don't know what attracted me to it in the first place. I thought it was just like, hey, like, sharks are cool, whatever. Somebody's going swimming. And then,
Sure.
so I was like, hey, how about this one? And she kind of goes, and she looks at it and she goes, looks a little scary. And then turns it
Oh
over and
man.
goes, oh, it's only rated PG though. Okay. And then so we got the movie and we went over to her place and I watched it and I was riveted, staring at the screen the whole time. Like that opening scene, which I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone that's seen it remembers what it is,
Oh yeah.
grabs you right from the beginning. The rest of the movie never lets go. I was glued to the floor watching the TV while this movie was on. And then after it was over, my aunt, who was my grandmother's daughter, we had to make a stop over at her house while we were going somewhere to like let her dogs out or something like that. And while I was there, we ended up having to stay later than we had initially planned. So I turned on the TV, and when I turned on the TV, whatever channel it was just starting to play Jaws again. And so I sat there and watched it again, riveted to the floor. I saw it twice in one day when I was 8 years old. And
Jesus, that'll do it.
I went to bed that night and I couldn't sleep. And then I went to bed the next night and I couldn't sleep. And then I went to bed the night after that and I had a really bad night. And those nightmares lasted, like, no joke, man. I'm dead serious. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration. I had a nightmare every night for literally months.
Holy moly.
Like it.
I definitely, I feel you there, man. I definitely had alien dreams for a long time.
Like it didn't like just scare me. It kind of like scarred me. Like that movie hit me way, way harder than I ever would have expected it to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant movie, you know?
I mean, it's good. I can't say it's not good. I mean, like, look what it did to me. It's obviously a fantastically made movie, you know?
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's a terrifying movie, Jaws, for sure. I think the only reason Jaws didn't affect me that hard is because I had already seen Alien by the time I saw Jaws. Like,
fair enough.
Honestly.
You know, speaking of which, it's funny that you mention that because that's actually kind of the transition point into, not when I started getting into Alien, but when I kind of got into like the mindset that would open me up to getting into Alien later on. Because unlike you, I didn't start watching, I didn't start watching the Alien movies until just like a few years ago. I've been aware of the franchise for a long time.
Okay.
I always, had that, I don't want to say trauma because that's like, I don't want to make it sound that severe. Sure. But like, the movie had an effect on me.
I mean, trauma is trauma, right? Like not here to
I just don't like phrasing it that way because then it makes it sound like I'm equating myself to people that have gotten like, attacked or, abused or whatever. And it's not
sure.
That, but
I mean, trauma is trauma. I'm sure you've suffered some real life trauma as well. Don't worry, man. We all have. You're allowed to use. You're allowed to apply the term where you need to.
But
I think the awareness of it is important. But
I've always trauma. Like I've always known. I've always, of course, remembered how the movie made me feel. And as I grew up, as I grew older, because ironically enough, something else happened when I was 8. Up until then, I was an outdoor kid. I would get home from school and do my homework, and then just go outside and like climb trees and run around and goof off the neighborhood until it was time to go to bed.
Sure, yeah.
On the weekends, all of my time, 100% of my time was spent outside goofing off because my best friend lived across the street from me. So we would just hang out whenever we weren't at school.
Yeah.
And when I was 8 years old, in 1995, Sony released the PlayStation 1.
Oh, boy.
And my uncle, who's a big tech guy, bought a PS1, like, I don't know if on launch day, but like within a couple of weeks of it coming out.
Sure, yeah.
And since he's a big tech guy, he wanted to, upgrade. So he, after hooking up his PlayStation, he came over to our house and he's like, hey, Kenny, I've got an old Sega Genesis that I used to be using that I don't need anymore now that I have a PlayStation. I was wondering if you would like to have my old Sega Genesis.
Sure, yeah.
Since I was an outdoor kid, I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase this, but like effectively, I barely even knew video games were a thing. My friend owned a Super Nintendo, and he would play it sometimes. I would play it sometimes, but it wasn't really a thing because that wasn't the thing I was doing. I like to goof off and climb trees.
No swimming though, not after seeing Jaws.
That is correct. I actually like a brief side note that happened when I was 8. I'm currently 34 in the 24, 28. However, I can't do math all of a sudden. In the intervening years, I've literally only gone swimming twice ever
Holy
that
moly.
entire time.
Damn. I'm a
Like,
fish, man. You can't keep me out of the water if I can help it.
Jaws didn't make me scared of sharks. It made me scared of bodies of water, so I just don't go swimming anymore.
So your parents were like, man, Kenny doesn't want to go to the pool anymore. And my parents were like, man, Neal doesn't want to haul ore through space in a giant ship barge anymore.
That's them. SMDH. That's them when they're thinking about it. They're like, come on, we were counting on this guy.
The power of movies to destroy childhood activities like swimming and towing ore through space in the Nostromo.
Specifically on the Nostromo, that's correct.
Yeah, sure. As far as I know, I mean, that's the ship that was the most affected.
But yeah, like I said, my uncle gave me, his old Sega Genesis, and he, showed me how to hook it up because, I had never done anything like that before. I didn't know how to do it. And so he gave me 2 games. And this is actually funny and ironic considering what your other show is. I had 2 games. Okay. One of them was Column, which basically just, stacks of jewels. I looked at the picture and it didn't really look like anything.
Oh, the other I love Columns. Sorry, Columns is an absolute banger.
In retrospect, yeah, Columns is cool. But at the time, I was like, whatever. It's just I don't even know what this image represents. The other cartridge he had, because he only gave me 2 games. The other one was Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh no, the best one.
And so I saw the picture of whatever Columns was, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then I looked at the cartridge for MK2, and it had like a cool dragon or like bolts of thunder or like whatever it was that was on the cartridge. I don't remember anymore. But
both of those things.
Okay, so I was remembering the image correctly. It had like the dragon with the thunderbolts behind it and everything. And like I looked at that and I was like, lightning and a dragon, and they spelled combat wrong. This is definitely it. So I put in the game and started playing it. And like Mortal Kombat 2 is the first video game I ever played that I owned myself.
Okay.
And the reason this is significant is because before that, I was an outdoor kid. And then I put that game in and hit power and started playing, and it was like a light switch. I immediately became, all I did was play video games like that.
Sure, yeah.
And to be honest, I'll be real, that's still my primary hobby now, even with a job and everything. But
everyone plays games. You get enough outdoor time at your job, presumably. At the very least, walking from the car to the building, it counts.
That's right. But the reason this is like relevant to my story of Alien is because, as you guys have no doubt discussed on the show, there's a lot of like weird monsters and stuff in Mortal Kombat. And I still remember. Well, I don't fully remember.
Baron Rayland, he was pretty monstrous.
That's right. I don't remember for sure. I can't remember exactly which character was the first one I ever played. It was either Jax or Baraka. I don't remember which one. But it was one of those 2.
I remember gravitating towards Baraka almost immediately in Mortal Kombat 2.
I'm feeling like, based on my interests now, I have a feeling Baraka was first because he's like a weird monster freak. He has like the big claws and like the huge teeth, and he's all like, and
the blade arms.
Yeah. And so he's like a weird monster guy. And so I thought that was really cool. And so I played as him a lot. And then over the course of my video game playing, I guess you could say career, I don't know, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm actually paying for it. You know how it goes.
But that's, in a lot of ways, that's real careers also.
That's true. I truly cannot argue with that.
Wages being low and gas being so expensive, it costs you more money to go to work than you make at work.
May as well just stay home and play video games all day. Exactly.
Yeah.
But over the course of my video game playing career, I've slowly started to realize that I'm honestly not a big fan of fighting games. To this day, Mortal Kombat's still really the only fighting game series I play. And I like it because of its convoluted lore, not because of the gameplay.
Sure, you're there for the narrative.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
But
I am too, honestly. I like fighting games, but I'm with Mortal Kombat for the story.
Oh yeah, that's why I play it. That's why I still buy every game series. But although the fighting game part of Mortal Kombat 2 faded away over time. The Baraka part did not. Not specifically Baraka, but like the weird mutant monster freak guy part did.
Sure, yeah.
And so as I started playing other games and started realizing other genres and other TV shows and other movies that I like, over the course of time, I slowly started to realize that the through line they had in them was that they were all kind of monstery. Like, I'm a big Resident Evil fan. Even
Okay.
when the games got bad, I still played them because the monster design was A plus stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so over the course of time, I realized that I started to play more and more like monster stuff, a lot of like horror games, things like that. But because when I was younger, I transitioned straight from outdoor kid to video games kid, I never
Yeah.
had a movies and TV period in the middle.
Okay.
So while I was growing up, I would play video games. I didn't really watch
Yeah.
TV. I didn't really watch movies. To this day, I still don't really watch a whole lot of stuff. I play games more often than I watch stuff.
Yeah.
And so, since I didn't watch things very often, I would go out of my way to make sure that what I was watching was something I was really, really interested in watching because I didn't really get the mood to watch stuff that often. So I always made sure to make it count.
Yes, I definitely had a very similar phase. And I do think that the Alien movies, once I got those VHS tapes from my brother, they were the thing that like got me to sit down and watch a movie.
I had the same thing. I noticed, like, I had the exact same thing. Like, that thought occurred to me over the course of time. I realized the things that held my interest the most was horror movies, monster movies, things like that. How you said you like any monster, big, small, humanoid, non-human, whatever.
Sure.
I realized that the things I like, what I care about in a movie or a show or whatever, is I want to see a monster like eat someone or attack someone or chasing people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for real.
To this day, like, no joke, my favorite movie of all time of any genre is The Thing, 1982, John Carpenter. Because
a brilliant movie.
It's great. I love watching a huge, gross monster attack people. I love it. It is my favorite genre of movie of all time.
Yep.
And
I know
so,
that's like a remake of The Thing from Another World or something, but
it is, yeah.
It's John Carpenter's The Thing. It's a very different beast than that movie,
As far as I'm concerned, like, I know The Thing is posited as a remake of The Thing from Another World, but they're two separate movies as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you on that.
I mean, they're just
also
two completely unconnected movies.
Another movie to add to our list of stuff that is alien adjacent.
That's right.
Yeah.
And but I would watch these monster movies. I would see like these weird alien, like lowercase a guys going after people, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. Maybe I should start watching more stuff when like space and so on. And over the course of time, I realized that my favorite, how you said earlier that you like slasher movies the best of horror movies.
Yeah.
My personal preferred subtype of horror movies are supernatural horror and science fiction horror. I'm also a big, for instance, Event Horizon. Love that movie.
Sure, yeah.
But
that's one I haven't seen in a very long time.
It's very good. And so, of course, because I'm a big, I want to see monsters. I like aliens, and I want to, again, lowercase a alien. And I like science fiction horror movies. Sooner or later, I'm going to notice the fact that the Alien franchise exists. Looking back at it now, I very vaguely remember hearing about ads for Resurrection when that came out,
Okay.
And when Prometheus came out, I remember, they were talking about like how, Prometheus is like, it's not about the aliens, but it like takes place in the universe of the Alien movies and all these things. But I still like hadn't gone into the Alien franchise yet by that point. That wouldn't happen for another few years. That actually didn't start happening until after Covenant came out, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It's only, like I watched the first Alien movie for the first time, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Holy moly!
And because
yeah.
I
So
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's been such an ever present part of my life. It's a little hard for me to wrap my head around that. Like,
yeah, I mean,
man,
like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess there isn't really like a reason why. It was just over the course of time. I just ended up by happenstance getting to other things first. And I
Sure.
always kind of knew it existed. And I don't want to say I always thought it was boring, but like whenever I would read about it or hear somebody talk about it or whatever, I would be like, oh, it's a group of people. And like, oh, there's only like one monster. And like, oh, you
Right.
barely see the monster. Yawn, thumbs down, that kind of. It didn't seem like it would be the type of thing that would appeal to me because I didn't think it was the type of thing I would want out of a movie,
What if I told you there was this movie about these guys on a boat in the middle of the ocean and there's this shark, but there's just this one shark?
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. At the time, I didn't make the connection. Like, it didn't occur to me that I'm like, oh, the movie I've been terrified of my entire life by this point is the exact same thing. Like, that thought just never occurred.
Maybe we're just like subconsciously avoiding it for that very reason,
Maybe. But going back to how I mentioned earlier about how I don't really watch very much stuff. Yeah. Once I got old enough and like got a job and had like paychecks and a regular income coming in, I started to, I don't want to say make up for it, but like I started just out of nowhere. I would just start buying movies. Like they don't even have to be movies that I've seen. Sometimes they're movies that I have seen and I didn't like. Doesn't matter. Like movies I wasn't even aware of before I saw them for sale. I would just buy movies. And like not even necessarily with the intent of watching them. I would just buy movies because I just wanted to own a big selection of movies.
Just started collecting. Just got a collector's bug.
Yeah, just to collect them.
Yeah, I've been there. I own a ton of movies. I don't like.
Very brief side note: I own the first 8 Fast and Furious movies and Hobbs and Shaw. I bought a box set with the first 8, and then I also bought Hobbs and Shaw. I own 9 Fast and Furious movies, and I have never seen a single second of any movie in the franchise.
Wow, dude.
I just one day it was on sale on Amazon or wherever it was that I got it because I bought it online, and I was like, oh, it's on sale, add it to cart, buy it. It was like $14 or whatever, and I got 9 movies,
Well, $14. I mean, you're going to get more than $14 of entertainment out of that, whether you enjoy them or not. At the end of the day, honestly,
and
I'd throw that Hobbs and Shaw in the trash, though. That movie sucks.
And so that's what I would do, though. I would just like buy movies. It doesn't even have to be movies I've seen or movies I had heard of. I would just buy movies just to have them. Like even if you were to look at my shelf right now, the movies up there, I've probably seen less than half of them because I just like to just buy movies, just like you said, because I just like collecting.
Yeah, and you open your own video store one day, start renting them out.
And so
with Netflix fucking up left and right, someone's going to need to open a video store.
That's right. I mean, Netflix is just another cable company now, pretty much. I mean, they were even talking about adding ads. You know what? We don't need to get into it.
No, we don't need to get into it. I haven't had a Netflix subscription in like a year, and I haven't missed it, honestly.
So one of the things that I bought one time, just one of the random, because I try not to buy movies if there's more than if it's a movie that's part of a series. I'll try to buy like a box set of all of the movies in the series, like rather than buying them all individually or only one of them or whatever.
Like when you just recently got or showed me that Darkman set you got.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Darkman, by the way, all you listeners out there, if you haven't seen it, watch it. The first Darkman movie, fantastic.
Darkman is an absolute banger. And I just want to applaud the creators for naming the third one Darkman 3, Die, Darkman, Die.
Also, side note, speaking of 2 and 3, since Liam Neeson doesn't come back for those movies, you know who they got to play Peyton Westlake in 2 and 3?
I don't, because I've never seen 2 and 3.
They got Arnold Vosloo, who is most famous as the Mummy from The Mummy 1999 with Brendan Fraser.
Holy shit, for real?
Yep. Arnold
Oh
Vosloo
my god!
plays Peyton Westlake in Darkman's 2 and 3.
Shout out to Brendan Fraser,
That's right.
not the other guy.
Not him though,
No,
just Brendan Fraser.
no.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I was buying movies, just random stuff, and then one day I was buying something else unrelated that I actually needed and was buying for a legitimate purpose on
Sure.
Amazon, and then they were talking like they had just had a list of like sponsored purchases underneath,
Uh-huh.
like they were just unrelated to the stuff in your cart, and
Right.
one of them was I don't remember exactly what it's called. I believe it's the Alien Anthology. I think it is. I think it's the
Yeah.
name of it.
Sure. They realized quadrilogy was a dumb name, and they later re-released it. They started releasing them as Alien Anthologies. Plus, they got over like 4 movies, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And so I believe it has Alien 1 through 4, and then the special edition of all 4 of them. And then it has like 1 or 2 extra bonus discs that has like all of the special features from like all of the previous versions of the movie releases.
Damn.
And it has like, 8 or 9 discs in it or something like that. And it was on sale for like, I don't know, $30 maybe or something like that. And I was like, I just got paid. I wasn't planning on watching this movie, and maybe I will someday or another. But it would be cool to like it would look cool to be sitting there on my shelf, so I'm just gonna buy it. Yeah. And then I bought it, and then it showed up in the mail, and then I opened it, and like I looked at it, and like the cover of it is, I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's like a silhouette of like a side view profile of like a xenomorph head, but like the light coming from behind it has like this greenish gold tint to it. And like I looked at it and I was like, damn, that actually looks really cool. Maybe I should watch this just so I could like see what this thing actually looks like in the actual movie proper.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was that night, but it was like within the next couple of days, I opened it up and put in the first Alien movie. I waited a little bit since I had never seen it before. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to watch the theatrical or the special edition cut. And honestly, I don't remember which one it is that I picked, but they have that option in the box set,
Yeah.
And I put one of them in and I started watching it. And I'll admit, because I wasn't used to how the movie operates, because I hadn't seen it before, I wasn't familiar with like the tone or the pacing of like how this movie was made, and plus the fact that it was from the 70s, I started watching it and honestly did think it was kind of slow and boring at first. Before I appreciated the movie, I thought it was kind of boring,
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah, it's a slow burn for sure.
Like over the course of the movie, it kind of started to grow on me a little. I started to get more used to these characters. Seeing a young Sigourney Weaver is always interesting,
Sure, yeah.
And especially like if you only were familiar with her like now at her like then current age, seeing her when she's like 26 or whatever, you're like, whoa, it's like seeing a movie from like, when Helen Mirren was young. You're not used to seeing her looking young.
Never mind like a young John Hurt in that movie, like holy moly.
Yeah, no joke. He looked young enough that I almost didn't recognize him because I'm primarily, well, not primarily, but the first thing I ever really saw him in was the first Hellboy movie.
Sure.
And, by that point, he was a lot older than he was an Alien. And it took me a couple of scenes until I went, wait, is that John Hurt?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was wild for me. I don't think I was aware of older John Hurt until the Doctor Who thing he was in.
Yeah, which was only a few years ago.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay. We'll do a whole episode on John Hurt and Tom Skerritt.
We certainly
later.
Could.
Anyway, sorry.
But I was watching Alien, and like I said, the movie started to grow on me. I started to really like it. And like, they started to have like the little glimpses of the monster here and there. Or like, when the one, I don't remember which character it is, but like they walk into the engine room near the end of the movie and the alien's like curled up in a ball in the wiring,
Yeah.
Like all that kind of stuff. Like when they started to show the little fleeting glimpses of it, I was like, all right, yeah, this is the kind of monster I could really get behind. But like by that point, I had already gotten accustomed to like the tone and the pacing and the style of the movie. And so had like really, really gripped me. And then finally at the end of the movie, when like the actual alien shows up and like starts like being visibly seen on camera, I actually
Yeah.
had to pause the movie, not because I was scared, but because of how excited I got at how much cooler the monster looked in motion than I expected it to.
Oh yeah. No, the God, the effects in that are terrific.
They're
What's
phenomenal.
interesting, comparing that to like when they did some CGI xenomorphs in Alien Resurrection, I remember at the time, because it was close to the release of Alien Resurrection, when I saw that, I was like, damn, this looks so cool. Look at them move. But then just like a year or two later, I'm like, man, analog xenomorphs for life, dude. Like the
Yeah.
CGI stuff is just really not working for me.
Briefly touching on something I mentioned earlier, it's like watching 1982 The Thing and comparing it to 2011 The Thing. They're going
Oh
for the
yeah.
same thing, but one of them uses CGI, and the fact that it's not practical effects just makes it feel fake, you know?
Oh, yeah. That's a really good
And
example of that.
this is this is finally when this long rambling story loops back to the original point I was trying to make. I finally saw that xenomorph on screen, and I went, that is one of the coolest monsters I've ever seen in my entire life. I cannot believe I waited this long to watch this
Yeah.
damn movie. And then so I watched it, and then as soon as it was over, I watched Aliens. And then the
Yeah.
next day, I watched 3 and Resurrection. I watched all 4 movies in like a 2-day period.
Nice. What a
And
weekend.
going back to something you mentioned before about how you said that, like, to this day, the Xenomorph is like the only movie monster that you actually still, like, to this day, still think looks scary.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it during our discussion, and okay, shark aside, because that's
Shark
just like a
aside.
real animal. There's not
Sure.
creature design there in the same way that there is in the Alien movie. So disregarding shark, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you, because there's just something about the xenomorphs that it's like, it's not just the fact that they're like close but clearly not human. It's not
Right.
just the weird elongated skull. It's not just like the tubing and mechanical body parts. It's all the little pieces that just congeal into something that is absolutely just aberrant non-human that hits your
Yeah.
brain in a wrong way,
Right. It reminds you of insects, it's humans, it's alien in the general sense. It's an unsettling design. You look at the thing and you're like, you are a creature that should not exist.
Yeah.
But you do,
It's
Fucking
it's truly intense. It's masterful stuff. It is not like, not only do I agree with you that it might be the only monster design that's actually scary, but it might be my favorite monster design I've ever seen in
yeah, fucking
there's
HR
just,
geeker out here just hitting
yeah,
grand slams.
there's just something about the design of the xenomorph that is just, you know, I don't know, man. It's just so, like you said, it's just wrong in a way that it's impossible to definitively put your finger on.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, man.
I don't know. It's wild stuff. It's genuinely creepy to look at. Like, the smoothness contrasted with the machine parts. The fact that it doesn't have eyes, it has less eyes than
Yeah.
it should and more mouths than it should.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
God. And that's why, like, I can watch certainly I have my preferences, and certainly I recognize there are some bad entries in the movie series, especially when you add in some of those AVP movies, by which I mean kind of both of them.
Yeah.
But I'll still sit down and watch them because the monster is effective. Like the core of it all, like, always works on me, right? Like, that's why I'm maybe the only person, not to like start showing our hands here. I might be the only person I know who's like came out of Alien Covenant really trying to like that movie because of the aliens in it. Like, I had to do a lot of work to get myself that way to that place, but I got there, honestly. Like, I'll sit down and watch Covenant. I'm probably going to watch it tonight just for fun when we end this recording.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, because I was actually thinking of doing the same thing for Prometheus, just because I haven't seen it in a long time.
Okay.
I mean, like, because that was the other thing, the little addendum to my story about watching all the Alien movies. I watched all 4 of them over the course of 2 days. And then like
Yeah.
the next time after I got paid, I went out and bought a copy of Prometheus and Covenant because Covenant had already been out by this point. I think it came out like the year before or something like that.
Was
And
that
then sat down and watched both of them. Yeah, well, Covenant came out in 2017.
2017.
And so I watched both of them when they came in, and I was like, how should I put this? Big major twist of Covenant aside, generally speaking, I did end up liking them. We can get into that part later, but
we will.
And we will. I'm sure we will. But for the most part, I generally ended up liking them. But like, unlike the main 4 Alien movies, I haven't seen Prometheus or Covenant. Like, as of this recording, I have not seen them since that one first time that I watched them.
Okay.
I have seen Alien and Aliens a couple more times since then. I believe I've seen Alien 3 a total of twice, and Alien Resurrection, I've still to this day, as of right now, only seen it the one time that I watched.
Oh boy, well get ready because we're going to be revisiting it pretty soon here on this show.
Yeah, it's not going to be long, but yeah, I think I might actually watch Prometheus tonight, though I haven't seen it in a long time. So.
Okay. Well, speaking of, I think the next time we get together to record, we will be talking about Prometheus, or potentially maybe those Prometheus short films that kind of came out in promotion of it.
Yeah, the marketing ones that they released, like I think most of them came out like just before the movie did. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet to be decided if we're going to talk about those separately or just roll them into our conversation with Prometheus. But either way,
yeah,
we're going to jump into all of it, man. We're going to dig through all of that shit. We'll dig through those things they did for Covenant before Covenant came out, because there's 2 or 3 of those. One of them's just kind of an extended scene of stuff we saw in the movie. We're going to dig through it all. You know what I'm looking forward to the most? At least right now, talking about that William Gibson Alien 3 pitch or script, that script he wrote that got adapted into a comic and
which one? There's like drama. 3 different versions.
Well, I think all of them. We'll talk about all of them all at once, man.
Well,
I'm excited.
Thinking about it now,
yeah,
that script is not the only Alien movie pitch that never got made. So maybe we could also talk about a few of those other unrealized Alien projects.
Sure. Was it Neal Blomkamp? Am I getting that name right? Who had
you are. He did Alien 5. There's also some like first draft versions of the movie that eventually became Prometheus, and those drafts would have been a very different movie than the one we got. There's a few different things. There's a couple of comics even that got canceled before they came out that we could talk about.
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to find a place to talk about all of these things. Things you guys have watched, things you guys have read, and stuff that none of us got to watch or read. Yeah. And of course, we're going to make space in the schedule to talk about any new, Alien films or TV shows or the ongoing Marvel comic whenever we feel it's necessary or it's time to. I'd love it if we could just like follow along with the show, because that's got to be like 8 episodes or something. Like that's how
I can't imagine it's going to be more than that. That's what streaming shows or streaming services do now.
Yeah, so we're just going to like take a pause from whatever else we're talking about when that hits, and we're just going to run through all of those.
And plus,
we can do whatever we want.
There's even, that's right, it's our show. We can do whatever we want. Speaking of doing whatever we want, there's even other aspects of the franchise that we didn't mention earlier, neither of us have touched on. I don't know about you, Neal, but I personally am a big Dungeons and Dragons guy.
Oh yeah, I play D&D. I get down.
And
down with some 5th edition.
And there's over the years been a few different officially licensed Alien tabletop RPGs. Maybe we can talk about a couple of them.
Absolutely.
I'm mainly saying that just so that we can get it on recording, so that if we never talk about it, people can come and chase after us with torches and pitchforks.
We're committed now. Maybe we can just fucking play the game.
Maybe we could. Man, I mean, Jesus. No joke, this isn't me tipping my hand or anything. I own all the books.
But do you think there's a market for people to like release podcasts of them playing a tabletop RPG I'm not sure that that's a thing people are interested in.
I'm pretty sure no one has ever done that. And if they did, no one would ever listen to it. Wink, wink, wink.
Well, we'll be the first.
We will absolutely be breaking new ground. We'll be trailblazers. That's for sure.
We're also, super early on this podcasting thing too. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure we're like the third person ever to start a podcast.
We may be the third podcast of the 14th podcast wave. That could be possible.
It's insane though. I don't know if you've ever done this, but not too long ago, I actually looked up, tried to find some other podcasts about the Alien franchise. And dude, there aren't any, man.
Not really out there, huh?
I came after, that is not what I meant to say. I came across another show that, similarly to what we were hinting at earlier, they're like an Alien and Predator franchise podcast where they cover both of them equally. And I just want to say to all the listeners out there, we're not going to be covering those two franchises equally. We'll be talking about Predator here and there, but it's not going to be equal focus between the two.
Yeah, we're going to watch those movies because, you got to get the context right. But we will be definitely Alien leaning. We will be talking about the Predator mostly as it relates to the universe, the Alien universe.
But yeah, like I was saying though, there's really just the one big podcast that has done more than a handful of episodes. That was pretty much the only one I found. And they were equally Alien and Predator. So as weird as it is for as major of a franchise as Alien is, we're kind of getting into what is kind of an untapped market, sort of.
Good.
It's wild to think about, but...
Maybe we are early on something. That's 2 for me. I think I was also the first person to do a podcast dedicated exclusively to Mortal Kombat Conquest.
Well, I can tell you right now, the thought had never occurred to me before you started doing the show. So you've got one up on me there.
Okay. Well, I think we should leave it here for today.
I think I'm okay with that.
We got to start prepping for our next episode, find our time to record, where we're going to start diving immediately into Prometheus and following that up for a few weeks with some Prometheus adjacent stuff, I guess.
Yeah, stuff is really the best way to describe it. I know of the short films. I suppose you could say that the Alien Covenant Origins novel is more of a Covenant novel than a Prometheus sequel, I guess. But
sure,
there's also a handful of Prometheus comics that we could talk about as well, maybe in the interim. I know you guys do a lot of comics over on your other show.
Oh yeah, we can. I gotta get it. We can get our hands on those things. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, we'll definitely be talking about Prometheus next week. Next episode, I should say. I'm not entirely sure if the entire episode's going to be about the shorts or if we're going to work the shorts into the overall Prometheus episode.
Right.
But we'll figure that out when we're recording and see how long it takes to get through those shorts. Because, honestly, there's 6 of them, and a couple of them, I watched them earlier today, and there's a couple of them that nothing really happened.
Nothing happened. They're like BMW films.
Yeah, kind of. So, it might be a discussion that, we could use it as, an intro or an aside while working up to the Prometheus content. Or maybe if there's some interesting conversations, maybe it could be its own whole episode. Who knows?
It's going to be what it's going to be.
That's right.
We'll figure it out in the editing bay, much like they did with probably Alien Resurrection.
I was sitting here with bated breath, wondering which movie was the one you were going to say.
And almost certainly with Alien Covenant.
Honestly, I thought you were going to say Alien 3.
You thought I was going to say Alien 3?
Yeah, because that movie was notoriously very heavily edited after the fact by the studio.
Oh yeah, we'll call our Prometheus. We'll call it the assembly cut.
Perfect. I love it.
All right, Kenny, I think we should wrap it up here. Where can our listeners find you on the internet if they want to roast you for not watching Alien until 2018? And
if you do that, I'll be fine. I might even try and fail to roast you back. My Twitter account is at CYHOBBEZ. Do not ask me to pronounce that as a word because it is not actually a word. I invented it when I created my accounts.
Cy Hobbs and Shaw. Okay.
I generally, if I'm forced to pronounce it out loud, I generally say sci-hobs, but it's not actually a word, so I generally have to spell it out.
Gotcha. You can find me on Twitter at Final Neal, and I've got a retro gaming Instagram account at Final Neal Retro because I don't have enough hobbies outside of the Alien and Mortal Kombat franchises. Speaking of, I do another podcast. It's all about Mortal Kombat. TV shows, cartoons, movies, comic books, books, basically every piece of Mortal Kombat media that is not a video game. That's what we talk about over on MK Podquest. You can find more out about that show at mkpodquest.com. I haven't set up socials for this show, but by the time everyone is listening to this, they will be set up. So you will see those down in the episode description. Follow us on whatever platforms we choose, and make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss any of these episodes. Right. Leave us good reviews, all that kind of stuff.
We know you want that sweet, sweet content right in your ears.
Who doesn't want to hear two dudes talking about the Alien franchise at length, like week after week? Like,
yeah, we've definitely been doing that. Well, we plan on doing that in the future.
Yeah, we are going to go deep into this stuff. Like, we're going to talk about stuff I've never even heard of before. We're going to discover it on this show. We're going to we're going to revisit stuff, but we're also going to find new stuff.
Dude, there is so much stuff.
It's bottomless, and they keep making
there's so much more. Yeah, there's so much more than you think there is. Like, there's one that it's been stuck in my head ever since I read it. Well, listen to it, audiobook. They even made a YA romance novel set in the Alien universe.
Is that not Prototype? Is it? What's that one called?
It's Echo. Not Prototype.
Alien
Echo.
Alien Echo.
Alien
yeah,
Echo.
Man. We're absolutely covering that. Are you kidding me?
The main character, little trivia bit for you. The main character of that book is also a major NPC in Aliens Fireteam Elite, which I suppose in retrospect means spoilers for Alien Echo. She survives.
Holy shit, man. It's all connected. It's like when the Sevastopol and Worker Joe started getting referenced in later Alien novels. Man alive.
It is exactly like that. You're correct.
Crazy. We're going to sort through all of this. We're going to figure it all out.
Oh, every single bit of it. No stone shall be left unturned. Sorry, no ovomorph egg shall be left unopened.
There it is. Ovomorph. That was a term I was searching for earlier. Thank you for that.
No problem.
We will be back again to start talking about Prometheus.
Until
then, stay frosty.